What's going on, everyone? It is Henry John here with Flurry Sports. Uh, Baseball opening day is this week already. Man, time flies. And in honor of the MLB season getting underway, I thought it would be fun to kind of take a look at one of my favorite statistical endeavors. It's actually kind of how I first, one of the first things I learned as far as sports betting goes, and that is the Pythagorean expectation. You can apply it to multiple different sports, but baseball is kind of where it is rooted. And so I got some screens we'll share here, and we'll just kind of take a look at this. Thing's kind of going to be a nerdy video, so we don't always do that type of content here. But if you like that stuff, you want to learn something new, check out something cool, go ahead and stick around. So here we go. Starting off, just kind of a little overview of Pythagorean expectation. Sports analytics formula devised by Bill James. And basically, what it does is estimates the percentage of games that, in this case, a baseball team should have won over the course of a season. So, with this being 2026, they're headed into, we'll be looking at 2025 numbers. But it's based on their total runs scored and their total runs allowed. So real, base level stuff as far as that goes. But comparing, as it says here, a team's actual and Pythagorean winning percentage can be used to make predictions and evaluate teams who are overperforming and underperforming. And the name of the formula is because it resembles, the old a squared plus b squared equals c squared. So this is the formula here, just in its base form. Um, you see it with the squared exponent on the runs scored and runs allowed. But for baseball, some further research, further testing of the formula over the years turned up that the preferred exponent, as a general exponent at least, is 1.83. So a little bit less than a straight 2. Um, Further testing has gone on beyond that, and actually, it's been found that probably the most accurate way to do it is to use a specific exponent for each team based on the numbers that you're inputting for said team. But we'll keep things a little bit more simple here tonight and just look at it with 1.83. So we'll go kind of happy medium between two and specific team exponents, that is. So I will bring up here our full spreadsheet. All right. So I do this every year simply out of enjoyment because I think it's kind of cool to see how teams did last year. And first glimpse of this for you viewers, probably like, whoa, there's a lot of colors going on and a hell of a lot of numbers. So we're going to walk through it and we'll see kind of where teams stood last year. And then from a betting standpoint, the thing that I find the most interesting, uh, this formula can give you kind of a baseline as far as looking at season win totals. So, if a team drastically overachieved last year relative to what the Pythagorean formula says they probably should have won in terms of their total games won, then there's potentially going to be a significant edge to betting the under on said team to go under their win total here in the subsequent year, the 2026 season. So we'll get into that stuff. Kind of a little introduction to what I got going on here. So we got our teams listed over here. You can see the American League's in view right now. National League is below it, so we can go down when applicable. First column, 2025 win total. So this right here is the number of games that each team won during the 2025 regular season. It looks like the or the Blue Jays and Yankees tied for first in the AL with 94 wins. You got the Mariners with 90, so on and so forth. You got the White Sox, their misery continued last year, 60 wins. So we got them all. All right. The next key number, the 2025 win percentage. So that's this number here, simply translated into a winning percentage based on total number of games in the season, 162. And so 89 wins equates to a 549 winning percentage for the Boston Red Sox. You'll see that number commonly, in just a standard standings table. Uh, Meat of the formula right here, the next two columns, we got 2025 runs scored for every team, 2025 runs allowed for every team. So in most cases, if a team, the Orioles, for instance, 75 wins, 6 games under 500, 81 and 81 is 500 in a 162 game season. They allowed over 100 more runs than they scored. You do have some outliers to that. Those are a little bit more interesting when it comes to this. The Guardians, remember that late season tear? They went on, they finished with 88 wins, 543 winning percentage. However, they actually allowed 6 more runs than they scored. That was a pitching centric effort for them last year, and then Cleveland made that late season charge. So you can probably kind of get a feel for where this is going. Next column is the 2025 Pythagorean win percentage. All right. So here, formula that's inputted is exactly the Pythagorean formula. It's involving the runs scored, runs allowed. Remember, runs scored raised to the power of 1.83 divided by the totality of runs scored, again raised to the power of 1.83 plus runs allowed raised to the power of 1.83. So we got that inputted here, and that's consistent all the way down this column. Um, Now, like I was saying earlier, where it can get really interesting, we go down to the Guardians here. Actually finished last year in the win column, 88 wins, a 543 win percentage. However, based on the Pythagorean theorem, 643 runs scored, 649 allowed. They should have been below 500. It makes sense, they allowed more runs than they scored. So, again, very base level stuff, but fascinating to look at if you're a numbers nerd like me. So we got our calculations here going all the way down for what this formula says that each team should have won last year based on their runs scored and allowed. And then we get to this column here, highlighted in yellow because it's important. I color code things, so bear with me if you don't like the colors, but the differential. So essentially what this is um, the difference between what they actually won and what they should have won in percentage. So these numbers aren't going to look super significant. You got, let's see here in the AL, anything from looks like 4 thousandths here for the Royals to the Guardians is the biggest one at 0.068. But again, those are percentages with the decimals. So it will get more significant. And we'll just go down here while we're on it to the NL. So we can look at some of these, kind of get an idea where things are headed. A little less statistical variance between what the formula expected and how teams actually fared in the NL versus the AL last year. But right here, this one stood out. The Padres, when everything was put in, they actually finished with exactly the win percentage expectation that this formula thought they should have. So pretty cool there to have a true exact result. Looks like another one small here with the Brewers, the best team in the regular season record-wise last year. And small ones on the negative side will come up too. As far as the NL's biggest, just looking at it here, it looks like that would be the Marlins are up there in the wrong direction. So the formula is actually saying they overachieved last year. So we'll keep an eye on that stuff. And going back up to the top, the next column, all right? So now we're kind of going to take what we did with the formula for last year's numbers, running everything through. We have our differentials based on what was expected with this formula versus what the teams actually did. And we're going to have here 2026 betting win totals. So this is just, any sports book on the market right now, lines are up. Season starts in a few days. You'll be able to bet in-season win totals as well. Offerings on those have expanded over the last few years as sports betting has gotten bigger around the country. But Here's where things are. And of course, they've moved a little bit as money comes in and the market adjusts. Lines and odds move. That's just a given. But so uh, anything from, let's see, in the AL, we got 67.5. It looks like the White Sox are projected the lowest in the AL. And that number's actually been on the move as well a little bit. So um, even with the positive movement for the White Sox, which based on the differential, they underachieved a bit last year. So probably a smart bet on the over there as far as the Pythagorean expectation is concerned. Um, they are the lowest, though, still. And then we got a couple 90 and a halfs. The Mariners, the Yankees are the top two in the AL. Rolling down here to the NL, obviously the Dodgers are going to be the highest betting market total as far as wins for 2026. Yet again, over 100. And the lowest would be their NL West cohorts, the Colorado Rockies. They only won 43 games last year. I still don't know how that's possible. Is that 2 years in a row now where the record for the fewest number of wins, I think, has been set, or something like that? I know they were damn near going to surpass what the White Sox did futility-wise the year before um, last year. So Rockies not expected to be much better in 2026. So we'll take those betting market win totals from the sports book, and we're going to continue on here and just kind of get a feel for what we can expect in 2026. Identify maybe a potential crude edge, if you will. Obviously, there's going to be player movement and guys signing elsewhere in the offseason, different trades that have taken place. But by and large, a baseball roster is large enough that the amount of turnover may not be as significant as it could be in some other sports. The NBA, you have a big name superstar who changes teams. Well, the team he left very well could be in a completely different state the following season, and the team he goes to may have not been a contender whatsoever the previous year. Baseball is not going to change as much in that regard. So that's another reason why I enjoy doing the formula for MLB specifically, is because there is that level of carryover year to year. Obviously, you're going to have outlier results, surprise performances, whatever. But yeah, so 2026 betting win total percentage. So what I did in this column is simply used the win totals that are offered at the books and divided it by 162 games because that's a full MLB regular season. So then you have all of the win percentages there. Next column is the 2026 Pythagorean betting win percentage. Click into our formula here. We are looking at the differential uh, in and addition with our betting market win total percentage. So whatever the book is posting as the line, right? That's considered in the betting market to be the team's plus minus. Like they're going to land right around there if the odds are correct, which, when you're betting, you're assuming that the odds makers know what they're doing. They typically do. So in order to figure out which side we want to bet, we're taking whether the team over or underperformed last year, and then we're going to add it to the converted win total percentage divided by 162. So that plus our differential from a season ago gives us our Pythagorean betting win percentage for 2026. So we're adjusting what the sports books are telling us. We're taking last year's over or under achievements into consideration, and we're getting a whole nother column here of win percentages. Uh, and that leads us to our 2026 Pythagorean expected win total. So what we're doing here is, let me click into it, the uh, betting win percentage, Pythagorean, multiplied by 162 games. So we're doing the inverse of what we did from the betting market win totals to convert those to a percentage. Now we have our Pythagorean percentage by adding it to the betting market. Now we're multiplying it back to 162 games to get a win total number for every team based on the formula. Um, and then I threw in the last column over here, the win total, quote unquote, edge. So removing everything else, right? Like this is strictly numbers based, strictly this formula, but the win total edge is the number of games that there's a discrepancy between our expected win total using the Pythagorean formula calculations that we've done here, and then what the betting market has set for each team. So we got a whole, hodgepodge of differences in this last column. But for those who are potentially looking to have a simple way to jump in on some baseball win total futures, either now or in the early portion of the season, maybe a team who is expected to do worse than their betting market win total, for instance, the Orioles, negative 5.19. That's a fairly significant number of games there. Let's say Baltimore gets off to a decent start, the win total rises, and you're thinking, well, they are going to course correct, course consider again the roster, the players, et cetera, the schedule, all kinds of stuff to factor in along with this. But this just gets you a start on handicapping baseball win totals. So then it might even be a better line to jump in on the under at that point. So who are our biggest discrepancies in this column? Number one, by far and away, the Chicago White Sox. 10.96 is our calculated win total edge. So betting market's got them at 67.5 wins this season. Like we said, that's the lowest in the American League still. But our Pythagorean expected win total, 78.46. So according to this formula, and based on last year's performance, the White Sox underachieved to a degree where they should win almost 11 more games than what the market is projecting them for this year. So if we, again, the mental process here, just to drive that home, the betting market win total is our be all end all for this process. That's what we're saying the White Sox are going to win this year based on last year's underperforming, underachieving, if you will. Um, they should have been almost 11 wins better based on our differential and everything else. So the White Sox are number one in all of baseball in terms of that to go over the win total. And maybe perhaps that has a little bit to do with why I know for a fact that's one of the lines that has been being bet up slightly in the lead up to the 2026 season. Another one in the American League, like I said, the earlier the AL had a lot more variance. The Texas Rangers, they are expected to be slightly over 9 wins better than their betting market win total. And I think that kind of falls in line with, how some people viewed him last year, right? Like a bit of a disappointment. They battled some injuries, different things like that. 83 and a half. So sports books are saying they're either going to go 2 or 3 wins if it lands directly around that line over 500. So Texas potentially in line for a bounce back season. The Rays were number three. Uh, they're projected to finish a little ways below 500 this year. Last year, basically the same win total as last year for the Rays, but potentially that could be, a savvy play as well when you consider it's a smart front office. They're very analytically driven. They don't have the biggest budget, but they consistently get the most out of their players. And if they have some young guys in the pipeline coming up, that could be one to look at as well. In the National League, the two teams to highlight to round out the top five as far as teams that would be overplays based on the Pythagorean expectation. The Atlanta Braves, very disappointing year for them last year. They're, sports books are not expecting another sub 500 season for Atlanta whatsoever. That's a fairly high win total right there already. If you think they're going to go higher still, the differential says they did underperform last year in the win column relative to their runs scored and allowed. As miserable of a season as it was, which is pretty wild. And then the Cubs are the other one, actually. 88 and a half is their total. We go back over here. Last year, they won 92. They just finished behind Milwaukee in the division. Brewers kind of came out of nowhere based on preseason expectations, but the Cubs, based on this, would probably be the team to look at to win the NL Central. They have a higher market win total than the Brewers preseason. And then the Brewers, well, they're actually slightly underachieved last year, according to the formula, based on their run totals. And this calculation, uh, the Cubs had a bigger difference there, bigger discrepancy. So who overperformed last year? We'll jump into those here next. And these would be teams that, based on this formula, again, consider everything. Don't just bet based off of numbers alone in this situation with something simple like this. But these would be plays to the under. Uh, and leading it off, the aforementioned Cleveland Guardians. I don't know where that team came from towards the end of last year. They ran down the Tigers. They won the AL Central. Uh, Detroit got revenge, obviously, in the playoffs itself. But Cleveland expected to finish, based on last year's numbers, over 7.5 wins worse than whatever the market's telling us. That's telling us 78.5. So that puts our Pythagorean expected win total closer to 70, 71. So Cleveland doesn't have a whole lot on the roster. So I know for a fact that has been a look that a lot of bettors have had in the offseason as well, is betting Guardians under. Next up, also American League, the Los Angeles Angels, who are supposedly going to be better this year as far as some of the additions they made, guys they brought in, but they overachieved last year. And you can kind of see here. So the Guardians, had the winning record, very close differentials, but wound up allowing more than they scored by all of 6 runs. The Angels, 673 runs scored in 2025 versus 837 allowed. Their pitching was terrible. And so that's a reason why the formula is spitting out, hey, they actually, they weren't good, but they still overachieved relative to what they should have been. They got a low win total in the market again this year. So by this formula, they would be one of the worst teams in the American League. Uh, Down in the NL here, we got the Miami Marlins, who overperformed last year, according to this. Almost 7 wins of edge, if you will, for the Marlins to play the under based on this formula. Um, and then the other two, as far as last year's overachievers that would be underlooks based on this formula for 2026. Those are both in the American League as well. They would be the Orioles and the Blue Jays, who I think a lot of people feel that Toronto overachieved last year. So that is one that could very well be a worthwhile look as well. Betting market has them at 88.5 wins this year. Baltimore expected to be markedly better, but again, if you factor in what they did last year with a better win total, there is a chance based on 85.5 that they could still be over 500, potentially on the fringes of wild card contention, and still fall under that betting market projection. So um, that is the spreadsheet, and that is what I got. Yes, I got teams doubled up there. Don't mind me and how I do things. It's crazy, but yeah. So um, there we go, and just we'll wrap things up here. So thank you for watching. Hopefully you found this somewhat entertaining. Um, Maybe it gives you some insight into some ways to look as far as betting baseball win totals uh, in the early going here this season. And we will certainly continue tracking this. We'll see how teams do this year, and we'll have a whole new batch of numbers next year. And maybe we'll do some in-season tracking too, if you guys like this. So thanks for watching, and I will talk to you soon.